My mom sat me down and told me to take a break from family events because my child was too much, so I nodded, walked out, and gave her exactly the break she asked for in ways she never once imagined when she said those words. My mother chose the kitchen table. Not the living room. Not a phone call. The kitchen table, which in our family had always been the location of serious conversations, the ones that required sitting down and face to face, and the specific gravity of a surface between two people. She had made tea she did not drink. She had her hands around the mug anyway. She had clearly been preparing what she was going to say for longer than the length of the drive it had taken me to get there. My daughter Ren was in the living room. 4 years old. She had been diagnosed with sensory processing disorder 8 months earlier after 2 years of me knowing something was different about how she experienced the world and 1 year of fighting to have that knowing taken seriously by the people who were supposed to take it seriously. The diagnosis had been a relief in the specific way that accurate information is always a relief even when the information is difficult. It gave the thing a name. It gave me a framework. It gave Ren a path toward understanding herself that she was too young to understand yet, but that I was building for her one decision at a time. My mother had the mug in both hands and she looked at the table and then she looked at me. I need to talk to you about the family gatherings. I waited. Ren is. She stopped. Restarted. It is hard for the family when she has her episodes. At Easter she was in the middle of the floor for 40 minutes and nobody knew what to do and it made everyone very uncomfortable and your Uncle Raymond's grandchildren were frightened and I think for the sake of everyone, including Ren, it might be better if you took a break from the bigger events for a while. The kitchen was very quiet. Ren was in the living room. I could hear her, the specific low sound she made when she was content, a sound I had learned to read the way I had learned to read all of her sounds across 4 years of paying the specific close attention of a parent who understands that her child communicates in ways that require translation. For Ren's sake. For everyone's sake. Including yours. These events are clearly stressful for her, when she is stressed it is stressful for everyone, and I think a break would be good. How long of a break? She looked at the mug. Until things are more stable. Stable means what? She did not answer immediately. The pause before she answered contained more than she was going to say in the answer. It contained the actual meaning of the request, which was not about Ren's stability but about the family's comfort and about my Uncle Raymond's grandchildren and about the 40 minutes on the floor at Easter and about the specific discomfort of a family that had not developed the language or the patience for a child who experienced the world at a different frequency. Until she can manage herself better at group events. My name is Nora. 34 years old. Ren's father had left when Ren was 18 months old, before the diagnosis, before the framework, in the specific way of someone who had understood before the official understanding that what he was being asked to stay for was going to require more than he had. I had been raising Ren alone since then with the focused and sometimes exhausting love of someone who has decided that the person in their care is worth everything the caring requires. I looked at my mother across the table. She was 63 and had been a good mother in the ordinary ways. Present. Consistent. The specific warmth of someone who showed up to the school plays and the birthday parties and the ordinary occasions of a childhood. She had also been, I was understanding clearly for the first time at this kitchen table, a woman whose love had a specific threshold of difficulty and that Ren had crossed it. You are asking me not to bring my daughter to family events. I'm asking you to take a break. Because she is too much. My mother's hands tightened around the mug. I did not say too much. You said she made everyone uncomfortable. You said Raymond's grandchildren were frightened. You said it would be better for everyone if we took a break. I looked at her. What part of that is not too much? Nora. This is not about love. I love Ren. I know you do. But these events are hard and I am trying to find a solution that works for everyone. Including Ren. Yes. The solution that works for Ren is being included in her family. The kitchen was quiet again. Ren's low sound from the living room. The refrigerator. The specific sound of a conversation that has reached the place where both people know what the other is going to say and neither of them wants to be the one who says it. My mother said, I knew you would take it this way. I pushed my chair back from the table. I stood up. I went to the living room doorway and I looked at Ren on the floor with the small figures she carried everywhere, arranging them in the specific order that meant something to her even if the meaning was not visible to anyone watching. She looked up when she felt me in the doorway. Her face did the thing it did when she saw me, the specific settling of someone who has found the person that means safe. Time to go, bug. She began the process of collecting the figures. Carefully. In order. I waited without rushing her because rushing her cost more than waiting. My mother had come to the living room doorway behind me. She watched Ren collect the figures. I hope you understand I am not trying to. I kept my eyes on Ren. I understand exactly what you are trying to do. I put Ren's coat on. I picked up the bag. I took Ren's hand. I walked to the front door. My mother followed. At the door she said, "We can talk more about this. I want to find something that works." I looked at her for a moment. One long moment that contained everything I was not going to say in this doorway with my daughter's hand in mine. "Okay." I opened the door. I walked out. In the car I strapped Ren into her seat and I got in the driver's side and I sat for a moment before I started the engine. Ren had one of her figures in her hand and was looking at it with the focused attention she brought to things she found interesting. Outside my mother's house looked the way it always looked. Ordinary. Warm light in the windows. The garden my mother kept because she found it peaceful. I started the engine. I drove home. That evening after Ren was asleep I sat at my own kitchen table and I thought about the word break and what it meant and what my mother had imagined when she used it. She had imagined, I understood, a temporary thing. A few months. A period in which Ren got more stable, which in my mother's understanding meant more manageable, and then a gradual reintegration into the family events from which we had been diplomatically asked to absent ourselves. She had not imagined what I was going to do with the word. I opened my laptop. I started making a list. Not a list of grievances. A list of everything that connected me to the family infrastructure that my mother had not considered when she asked for a break. The things that ran quietly in the background of the family's functioning that I had been providing without announcement for years. The things she would notice the absence of when the absence arrived. The list took 40 minutes. It was longer than I had expected it to be. I looked at it for a while. Then I started. The first thing I stopped was the coordination. My mother's side of the family had a birthday calendar that I had been maintaining for 9 years. Every year in January I updated it, sent reminders, organized the group contributions for the significant birthdays. My grandmother's 80th had been coordinated entirely by me. My Uncle Raymond's retirement party had been coordinated entirely by me. The family had received both of those events as things that had happened and had not specifically examined the mechanism that produced them. I stopped maintaining the calendar in October. My grandmother's birthday was in November. It came and went without a group card. Without a coordinated gift from the family. My mother called on the 23rd and said, with the specific bewildered quality of someone encountering an absence that should not exist, "Did you send anything to Mom for her birthday?" I said I had sent something from Ren and me. She said, "I meant from the family." I said I had not organized anything from the family this year. She said, "Why not?" I said I was on a break. The pause on the line was the pause of someone understanding something they had not expected to understand. That is not what I meant. I know what you meant. I meant the events. The big gatherings. I did not mean. You asked for a break. I am taking one. I ended the call. The second thing I stopped was the Sunday calls. I had been calling my mother every Sunday for 11 years. Not because she had asked me to. Because I had understood it as part of the infrastructure of the relationship, the specific maintenance work of someone who understood that relationships required tending and who had been doing the tending. I stopped calling on Sundays. When she called me I answered and I talked and the conversations were warm and ordinary. I simply did not initiate. She noticed within 2 weeks. "You have not called on Sundays." "No." "Is something wrong?" "I am on a break." The third thing I stopped was the family group chat administration. I had been the person who organized the information flow, who remembered to share the things that needed sharing, who kept the thread from going dormant or from becoming chaotic. I stopped. The thread continued, but it became the specific low-quality version of something that is maintained by people who were never the ones maintaining it and who are discovering through the maintaining how much the maintaining required. My Aunt Rosalind called in November. She had a warmth that was genuine and a directness that was its own kind of warmth, and she was the family member I had the most uncomplicated affection for. "I want to ask you something directly." "Okay." "Your mother told me she asked you to take a break from the big gatherings because of Ren." "Yes." "And you have taken a break from other things too?" "Yes." "Things that have nothing to do with Ren?" "Yes." A pause. "Then, I see what you are doing." "I know you do. Do you want to tell me why?" I sat at my kitchen table. Ren was in her room, the specific sounds of her evening routine coming through the wall, the particular sequence she moved through every night that I had learned like a language. Because when she asked for a break from Ren, what she was actually asking for was a break from the difficulty. She wanted the parts of me that were easy and useful, and she wanted to suspend the part that required something from her. I said, I gave her all of it or none of it. Rosalind was quiet for a long time. "She loves Ren." "I know." She did not understand what she was asking. She understood that Ren was too much. She did not understand that Ren is not separable from me and that asking me to leave Ren outside is asking me to be less than the whole of what I am. Another quiet. What do you need from her? I need her to understand what she asked for. Not to apologize for it necessarily. To understand it. She is your mother. She is 63 years old and she does not have a framework. I know. I spent 2 years not having the framework either, and then I did the work to build it. I am not asking her to be an expert. I am asking her to try. And if she tries, then we rebuild from there. And if she does not? I looked at the wall. Ren sounds through it. The specific rhythm of her. Then the break continues. My mother came to my apartment in December. She did not call first. She knocked on the door on a Saturday afternoon and I opened it and she was standing there with something she had baked in the specific expression of someone who has been sitting with something long enough that sitting with it had become more uncomfortable than arriving at the door. I let her in. She put the baking on the counter. She stood in the kitchen. Ren was in the living room and looked up when she came in and went back to what she was doing with the specific neutrality of a child who does not yet have strong feelings about the visit. My mother looked at Ren for a moment. Then she looked at me. I have been thinking about what I said. I waited. I asked you to take a break because the Easter event was hard and I did not know how to handle it, and instead of learning how to handle it I asked you to make it easier for me by removing the hard part. She looked at the counter. The hard part is my granddaughter. The kitchen was quiet. I am not going to excuse it. I am not going to tell you I did not understand what I was saying because I think I understood more than I admitted. She looked at me. I was asking you to manage my discomfort by limiting yourself. That is what I was asking. I looked at her. What made you understand that? Rosalind. And your grandmother, actually. Your grandmother said something on her birthday when I called her. She said she had not received a family card and she asked why, and I told her you had not organized one this year, and she asked why and I said you were taking a break and she said. My mother stopped. She said a break from what? And I said from the family events, and she said why, and I told her what I had said at the kitchen table. A long pause. My mother said to me, she is 79 years old, she said, you asked her to leave her daughter behind to make you comfortable. And then you are surprised she left. My mother's hands were flat on the counter. My mother understands something that I did not understand. I said, she is a perceptive woman. She said she wants to see Ren. That she has not seen Ren since August and she wants to know if she can come. I looked at my mother. At the baking on the counter. At her hands flat on the surface. Yes. She can come. My mother let out a breath that had been held for a while. Ren came to the kitchen doorway. She looked at her grandmother and then at me and then at the baking on the counter, and the hierarchy of her interest in those three things was visible on her face in the specific way of a 4-year-old who has not yet learned to manage what her face communicates. My mother crouched down to Ren's level. She said, "Hi, Bug." Ren looked at her. Then looked at the baking. My mother said, "Do you want to see what I made?" Ren took 2 steps into the kitchen and looked at the baking from a distance of approximately 3 feet. It was a start. Small and imperfect and real. My grandmother came 2 weeks later. She was 79 and had driven herself, and she walked through the door and she found Ren within 30 seconds, and she sat on the floor of my living room with Ren and the small figures, and she asked Ren to explain the arrangement of them, and Ren, who did not explain things to most people, explained it to her. My grandmother listened with the focused attention of someone who had been alive long enough to understand that the things worth understanding required patience. I stood in the doorway and I watched them, and I thought about October and the kitchen table and the mug of tea my mother had, not Dr. NK, and the word break and what she had imagined it meant. She had imagined a temporary absence. She had gotten a complete restructuring of everything she had not known she was receiving. The family birthday calendar exists again. I restarted it in January. Not out of obligation. Because the family events that I attend now are ones where Ren is not asked to be somewhere other than what she is. Where her grandmother sits on the floor and asks to understand the arrangement of the small figures. Where the hard part is not removed but is met. The break my mother asked for lasted 4 months. It changed what came after it completely. My Uncle Raymond's grandchildren have not been frightened of Ren since November, when my grandmother put herself on the floor beside her and showed the room what it looked like to simply be present without requiring the difficult thing to become easier before you would be present with it. Ren is 4 years old. She does not understand yet what happened in October. She will not understand it for years. What she understands is that her grandmother sits on the floor with her figures now, and her great-grandmother came and listened to the arrangement, and certain rooms have started to feel different from the way they felt before. She understands safe. She knows how to read it. She read it correctly. Some people will ask you to make yourself smaller so that their comfort can remain large. They will frame it as a break. They will frame it as temporary. They will frame it as being for everyone's sake, including yours and your child's. They will not understand that what they are asking for is the whole of you or the absence of you. Give them the absence. Give it completely. Let the birthday calendar go unupdated. Let the Sunday calls go uninitiated. Let the group chat become what it becomes without the person who is making it something. And when they come to the door with something they baked and the expression of someone who has finally understood what they asked for, you can open the door. But open it on your terms. With your daughter standing in the kitchen doorway. With a full and complete version of yourself that you were always going to be. Or not at all. That is the only break worth taking.